Hey everybody, we've got a great panel coming up for you next. As you might have heard, there's a little football game going on in Santa Clara. So this panel is going to be moderated by Mike Davies, Executive Vice President for Fox Sports, and a great panel of local venue managers will be presenting. Alex Gannon from the San Francisco Giants, Scott Heitman from the Golden State Warriors and the Chase Center, and Jason Lemiere, formerly from the San Jose Shark Tank and also the Intuit Dome for the LA Clippers. They'll be joined by Mike DesRoches and Josemaria Soriano, and we expect it to be a great panel. Look for Mike and I to sit down and talk about Fox Sports and Brisk and their support of FIFA World Cup in 2026 coming right up. And here is a message from Net Insight. We're going to get started here. Everybody come and take your seats. All right. Oh, wow. Aaron right in front. Now I'm nervous. You know, so this panel is about fan engagement. And when we talk about fan engagement, we talk about a war for attention. And no matter what side of what area of the business that you're on, we are all in a fight to get and then keep everybody's attention. So the panelists that I have here are in the attention-getting business. And what I'm really excited about is they all kind of have a different sort of part in the same continuum. So somehow DesRoches wound up next to me. So I'm going to allow you guys to introduce yourselves all the way down the line and do your best.
Thanks, Mike. Mike DesRoches with Sony. I have the blessing to work with literally everybody on this panel, including Mike. And so I'm in charge of the western half of the country for sports and live. But all walks of life and being part of Sony and all the different things that Sony has vested interest in and technology stack. Because of that, I get to enjoy time with all these great people and Mike. So happy to be here. Thank you, guys.
All right, Alex?
Yeah, I'm Alex Gannon, the Director of AV Operations for the San Francisco Giants. So much like Scott, I'm responsible for running the AV equipment in and around the stadium, including LED displays and control room equipment.
Hi, I'm Scott Heitman, Golden State Warriors, Golden State Valkyries, and part of Chase Center. And yeah, everything that shows up on our displays or in our arena passes through our department.
Hi, Jason Lemiere, formerly of the SAP Center and then the Intuit Dome, helped design and oversee all of the broadcast AV installs of those two buildings.
I'm Josemaria Soriano. I'm product lead for media sports and enterprise video at Reka AI. We are an AI startup backed by NVIDIA and Snowflake, and we focus on video search and intelligence and personalized clip generation.
All right, so I guess we're short of mics, so nobody fight down there, okay? So I'm going to start with the folks that are at the controls daily, and that's Alex and Scott. And when we talk about fan engagement, when we talk about those tried and true things that kind of get the crowd going, the kiss cam, the, whatever you guys do. I mean, that's oldie but goodie, right?
Let's talk about kind of those things that work every time. What are the ones that are the timeless basics that seem to work and that you can work on enhancing over time? What is that stuff, Alex? Let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, the best fan engagement is the product on the field. But when you play 81 baseball games at home, not all those games are going to be very engaging. So we have to have other tools available to us to kind of draw fans in, assuming the game's not going great. And ultimately, like anything that gives the fan control, whether it's, you know, a QR code that makes their cell phone into a camera that we can take to the scoreboard, or allowing them to vote on any sort of sing-along inning, getting them to physically engage with the board show is a great tool for us.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, people want to see themselves up on the screen. They want free stuff. It's a matter of how we leverage technology to just enhance that. We want to be able to give everybody that's in the arena an opportunity to engage. So whether that's you're sitting courtside or you're in the nosebleeds. So like Alex was saying, yeah, giving fans an opportunity to utilize their phones as a camera that we get to put up on the board, or they submit photos, messages to players then that we get to showcase. It draws them in, makes them feel like this is worth coming to. I could have watched this at home, but there's an experience of being there in person that they can't find in their living room.
Do you guys agree with what I said about attention? I mean, do you feel that Alex and Scott, you guys are in a war for attention? Like, I mean, where you guys shine, right, is like pregame, during pauses in the action, you know, whatever it is. Is that kind of how you see it too, or am I missing the point?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, baseball games can be pretty long. They're a lot shorter than they used to be without a clock, but you know, people are looking elsewhere. They're not even, maybe they're spending half the game not even in their seats. But what we try to do in those big pressure moments is draw attention back to the field, and we have so many tools available to us to do that. And like one of the newest ones that you're seeing everywhere in stadiums is the ability to control theatrical lights and stuff from the control room. So shutting off the lights in the middle of an inning break, that'll get people's attention for sure.
Yeah, it gets our attention. I must say, I don't like it very much. But for TV, that's our war.
That's a very different league.
Keep the lights on during that. But I get it. Last question on this stuff for you guys. I was just as a thought. You know, I don't know how many of you guys watch the college football playoffs on ESPN in 4K. In 4K. If you watched it in 4K, and this is exactly what you guys want to avoid. What happened is that during the commercials, they just went to a wide shot. Now, they did that for technical considerations, but it makes you realize just how slow things can get if you don't have programming, you know, in between. And I know, Jason, I'm going to just go to Jason real quick on this. You build these arenas. You or at least you did it for the Intuit Dome. To what extent does the real hardware and things, like what do you do in order to facilitate these kind of timeless basics?
Well, first, you know, it's a massive team that helps build these things, and but really what it is with this, you know, from a fan engagement standpoint, how are you going to utilize these LED services, these lights, in a meaningful way that, again, is trying to solve the problem? How do we get people out of their house and into the building? How is it going to be consistent enough but different enough on a nightly basis? So how can we do that? You can do it from different aspect ratios they're not going to see at home. You know, you can utilize, you know, POV cameras. We did, I know at Intuit we had 30 some odd 4K POVs in the ceilings. They're now
right, so it's not only like what people see, it's how you're actually
how we're getting the
scene,
and what we're letting them see. You know, how we're switching it from the control room, just the palette of looks that they have, you know, as opposed to just taking the game or the game type feed and reiterating it back up on the board, you know, and then building a system that can display those 4K images from those cameras, you know, that whole system, the whole new 2110 systems, how we're pushing, you know, HDR content to those boards and letting people see it. And then, you know, to your point, how are we going to make it look right with the theatrical lights? You know, we're also fighting those same kind of problems that broadcast is, you know, when we're filming in these off moments, you know, when you're filming the people and the fans, how are we going to go about this? So how are the guys going to color those cameras correctly to make it look, when you're showing the fans, they don't look purple, you know, when the lights are down. And so it's how all these systems work together. I think, you know, the day and age of the sound system being the sound system, the light system being the light system, and the LED surfaces all being separate, being run separately, those days are gone. You know, you're making big switching moves and lighting cues, you know, from ROS commands or whatever it may be, from the control room, controlling multiple systems at once and kind of looking at the game as a whole as opposed to, well, now it's a timeout, now we go to the t-shirt toss or whatever it may be. It's how are all of these things working together consistently, you know, throughout a presentation.
So let's talk about, so we talked about venue right now, and actually in venue. Now we're going to go to some of the other ways that we can think about new methods of fan engagement. And this is where DesRoches comes in. You guys bought a company through the Hawkeye area called Beyond Sport. I've worked with Sander and those crazy Dutch people for a couple of times in different ways. But how does Sony and Beyond Sport kind of create that fan engagement over and above the game? Like these guys said, table stakes is the game itself. What are we adding to make it even more engaging?
Yeah, so actually now that I realize that my placement makes perfect sense because I get to work with all of you all, but there's that tug of war between keeping people at the venue and you want people staying home, and so you guys are kind of fighting over each other.
And we haven't even gotten to Josemaria, who actually is the scorekeeper for all this stuff, but we'll get to you, buddy.
Yeah. So, and I guess we have the graphic up here, and this kind of shows a little bit of the different elements in the tech stack that are out there. This doesn't have to be part of Sony. This all happen to be part of a Sony entity, a Sony-owned entity, but it's taking data from these leagues, from this IP, if you will, from the data, and turning into something that's meaningful to this new audience, either adding to the existing audience or a newer, younger audience. And as I was thinking before this, I realized that I'm probably now in the older half of this room, and I'm old school. I'm not looking on my phone. Go ahead, get your dig in. But I'm that old school guy. I want to watch it on my TV at home, or if I'm at the venue, I'm looking around and I'm engaging, seeing what these guys are doing to the video boards. What's that crowd engagement side? I want to see from our industry what we're doing. But all these groups, the leagues, the Disneys of the world that have these IPs, whether it's Big City Greens or Toy Story with Andy's thing, everybody's doing these things where it's like, hey, let's take that data, that play game-driven data, and with 1 second delay, let's build in this augmented reality, whether it's on an alternative broadcast or if it's in some sort of an app-based thing. That's where things are going to try to drive that other fan engagement.
No, I mean, just to be clear, Big City Greens, just like you guys all know what he's talking about? Anybody not know what he's talking about? All right, so basically what we're talking about is using kind of cross-content population. So like in ESPN's case, they took, a game and basically made it into a cartoon based upon content that Disney owned, and this has been done. The Pixar, Sunday Fun Day. They did. They did
Andy's Room. They did The Simpsons.
Right.
That was the Fox one, right?
No, we haven't done this one yet. I got my own opinions on this stuff, but
that's right.
I guarantee you don't want to hear them.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what this is about.
Yeah. So it's taking that IP, if you will, of the Disneys or ESPN or the other groups, and basically building that environment. I'm sure many of you guys have seen the Nickelodeon stuff that's done in those alternate broadcasts. It's kind of that mindset of let's bring in that younger audience, or let's find the area that they're consuming this content, whether it's on a cell phone or app or sub-channel alternative broadcast, and just find that. But at the end of the day, it's what's really going to catch the attention. And then when we talk about that in venue, and I don't hope this isn't killing another question later, but the thing for me is the things that go viral that you see later after the game, where the one I like that's more current is you got the game changer of the world where they'll throw in these filters, and it's got the opposing team that's not doing very well, and they got the crying face on, and they got the jersey from the opposing team. And so these guys will drive that to the video board, kind of like, trolling the other team and their fan base. I love love that kind of stuff. But that's the kind of thing that some leagues can't do that, some teams won't do that, but I'm a fan, quite frankly.
But basically, the technology's out there to do this, to allow any of us on this stage to potentially gather attention in the same way. But my question is for Josemaria, and I think that you've got a really interesting part on this panel, because as far as I can tell, Reka is a company that can potentially tell us if any of this crap works, right?
Exactly.
So how does it do that? And if you're the scorekeeper, if AI, and I understand we've actually gone through about 7 minutes on this panel and AI has not been mentioned yet, so I'm duty bound to bring AI into the conversation. So thank you, Josemaria. How can AI help with actually telling if any of this stuff is working?
Absolutely. So just for context, when you think about AI, there's usually two types of models. You have text language models, which are large language models, and then you have vision language models. What they are very good at is finding sentiment analysis based on face recognition and how you can apply that to sports. And actually, the pioneers were in political analysis. We're looking at crowds and analyzing if they're actually engaged or not. So you can put some cameras into all of your audience and evaluate every second and ask an AI model, hey, find the peaks in which people are actually engaging or not. And surprisingly, political organizations were the first one that we were getting traction with, and now in sports. Now, why this is so important is, and especially for sports and also for enterprise video, think about it. You have, every single weekend, you have videos of all of your crowds, and you also have information of all of the different game statistics and all that. Now with AI, you can actually unlock all of those insights on which specific timestamps people were actually engaged, and then measure, okay, whenever, like let's talk about basketball. Whenever there was a crossover, people were really engaged. Whenever there was a block, people were really engaged. Or even in enterprise video, when the CEO was talking about this specific subject, everyone was looking at him or her, and they were really engaged. And that's intelligence that before AI, it would be impossible for a human team to do. And now you can definitely do it at scale with the state-of-the-art that AI has.
Great. So now you've kind of nicely segued into my next question, which is basically, if we were talking about table stakes before in terms of what actually worked, now we can really get into it and say that it used to be that everybody just liked to see themselves on the screen. That's great. They'll look at it. But now we can come up, Josemaria, with different ways to personalize those experiences at scale using artificial intelligence. I mean, from your perspective, how is that done and how possible is that? And we're talking about not only in venue, but we're talking about out in the world as well, correct?
No, 100%. So there's two main things there. The first one is what people actually care about, and then second, how. So first on what? The reality is that most of your audiences now live in social media. They live in Instagram, they live in TikTok, they live in all of these platforms. And there's so many value and so many insights, not actually from the videos, but from the comments of the video. Same with LinkedIn. So you can actually use deep research models to evaluate all of that at scale and understand for your specific ICP what they actually care about. Once you have those insights, the second question is how? Okay, we know that they are very interested in the playoffs, or maybe in enterprise video, we know that they are interested in signal-based outbound, but how can I use the content that I put in front of them so that they actually are engaged? And here's where the vision models come in. Because you can look at, for example, LinkedIn. What were the videos that were extremely popular? And what vision cues, what subjects they had that actually made people engaged? And in sports, for example, there's so many TikToks and Instagram Reels made after a sport event. Now you can use vision models to understand, okay, why this specific video out of all that 25 I posted after the game went viral, and why the others just completely died. And that's something that you can definitely do at scale, and then based on that, generate fully personalized clips for that.
And maybe at this time, maybe in real time, right? You can potentially do that. I mean, I'm curious, Jason, I feel like we're in a real venue renaissance right now. I mean, a lot of the older venues are now getting turned over. Intuit Dome is a spaceship. Both, it kind of looks like a spaceship. And, you don't even need your wallet. I mean, God help you if you don't have your smartphone, right, and going to the Intuit Dome. But
It definitely makes it a little more difficult, for sure.
yeah, don't worry about cash, nothing like that. But when you're thinking about how you built the Intuit Dome in terms of some of these both capture and display devices, as it relates to personalization, how are you creating a personal relationship with the fan using technology? And what are you kind of seeing as trends in terms of venues and how we're using technologies to create those personalized relationships?
Well, I mean, kind of to Jose's point, there's so many things you can use with AI. I mean, we always know what's going to work. Giving people free tacos or free pizza or free T-shirts, always going to work. But that's a quick, easy fix.
No, it'd work right now.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
but
would.
how do you combine like the fan engagement with a corporate sponsorship element? I think the days of this T-shirt toss is brought to you by XYZ, like that doesn't work anymore. People are smarter than that. They don't pay attention to it. So to his point, this kind of technology where you can really see how fans are engaging in things, that's real-time data you can give to a corporate sponsor and say, here's the in-game thing that we might be doing with you, and here's why it's working, and here's the data behind it that proves that it's working. Look how the fans are engaged. There's a lot of facial recognition in the Intuit Dome, and they're just starting to kind of figure out some of that, tech. But, the real-time data they're using, which I think, ultimately the goal has always been there, is get that controller. Every seat's got a game controller in it. Get that game controller gone and have them do it on their phone. Everybody in there has the phone, and ultimately the goal's always been to now engage the fan at home as well with the fans in the arena. I think a lot of sports teams, a lot of networks have moved to not just showing ads anymore. They're always still putting a live feed up. So, on some of those, RSN games, keep the feed up, let them see the board, so fans at home can engage as well with the games that are being played in the bowl. Make it a little bit more, blur the lines from being there and being at home. And I think that's kind of the next step is, how do we kind of morph all of this corporate sponsorship into the game entertainment and not make it so heavy-handed as, brought to you by whatever pharmaceutical company.
Right, just hanging a shingle on something,
Exactly.
And tried and true, but, we're smart. We're better than that, guys. I mean, let's come up with something, and I feel that, what we haven't been able to translate that well is promote that interactivity and customization possibilities on good old TV, right? Because, there's the QR codes, we've got our Super 6 and things like that, but, does that really, promote individual relationship? Unsure. Maybe you need it, maybe you don't, I'm not sure. But we're talking about tools, so DesRoches, on your side, what are you selling these days to sort of make that more possible? I mean, obviously Sony has, if you think about Sony over the last, 10 years and getting into the Hawkeye technology, getting into the capture technology, obviously buying Beyond Sport, that kind of thing. You've got relationship with your brethren at PlayStation. I mean, how do you promote like selling stuff for or supporting that kind of personalization?
All right. I think there was a question in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go and decode that for yourself.
Yeah. So the nice thing about where we stand as a technology company is that it all starts with the image sensor, and then through our lens partners, the purity of that coming through that signal leads it into the technology of the camera, and then it's what professionals like you guys decide to do with it, right? So honestly, I'm sitting here. Literally, everybody here uses my stuff that I've sold, and then I
Capture.
you guys, right? It's great. It's capturing that stuff, but it's the professionals that make those decisions as to what to do. Before you came back and responded to what Jason had to say on the broadcast set, I was going to say, well, you know what? We didn't plan this, but I'm going to ask you the question because you're the broadcast guy. What would you say? You're the one that's driving the technology, the innovation at the NFL level. You just did the Super Bowl last year. Everybody's looking at what you're doing to drive it. So what would you say, to follow up on what you just said, would be the next step for what Sony should be doing? Here's your chance to basically...
I'll ask the questions, all right, pal? How about that? Well, first of all, I think we can all agree their stuff could be cheaper, don't you, everybody? All right. Hey, you asked the question. There we go. Who likes their SLAs? Screw that, right? No, just kidding.
Mirrorless.
Just kidding. I am going to answer that question, but I want to ask these guys something before I do, is that, I actually find that I'm learning things from what you're doing. And how are you promoting personalization and relationships with your fans based upon what you've heard already, like kind of what's at the bleeding edge of this stuff to kind of create that one-to-one. Alex, what do you think at the Giants?
Yeah, I think ultimately we're trying to make memories. We're in the business of selling memories. So anything that we can do that like makes a connection to somebody who's maybe attending their first game, something that can like make them involved in the game. Maybe if they're not a baseball fan, maybe if this is their first MLB game ever, something that they can take home with them and remember their experience at the venue, even if the game itself wasn't worth remembering. That's what we're trying to do. So whether it's we have a software we use where fans can upload photos. We can give AI prompts to it to alter those photos to like fall in line with a theme night. So I think the one that went pretty big last year was the Grateful Dead night. We had some pictures of fans that, they give us a photo, we alter them to be like a Grateful Dead style photo, and they get to see themselves in their photo on the scoreboard, and then we get to send them that photo after the fact.
Right, because, besides the underlying technology, that didn't cost you anything to do. It's just there. It's functional at scale. And like you said, you may not even remember what happened or who even they're playing, but you remember Grateful Dead night, right? So this is an interesting one, right? So we're not only in the marketplace of attention, we're also in the marketplace of making memories, Scott. Would you say that's also something for you in terms of like giving participants something to take home, digital or otherwise? Like you said, okay, T-shirts, hot dogs, that's great. You can take that, but there's other things you can take too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of memories, we just had a game where Kevon Looney has had his return to first game back since leaving the Warriors, and we had a moment where fans could submit photos of themselves with a message to Kevon, and we played those during his intro, and it was great because he was watching the board, he was touched by it. Even after the game, our head of PR asked for clips of that and sent that to him. So it was a moment for the fans to literally connect with one of their sports heroes just through the use of these tools, and being able to see that up on the board, being able to capture that, sending a personal message to one of their superstars. You can only do that and see that in person there at the venue. So that was pretty special to be able to do that for him.
Okay, so now I'll step in and answer my question. So at the end of the day, my job is really just to listen to what you guys have to say, what your wants are, and then our basically our mantra is to drive that into reality. All right, whether it's high frame rate has been huge for broadcast in the last handful of years, right? That's your way of telling stories. Other technology stacks, whether it's the cameras and low light, HDR, whatever is helping to basically say, hey, it's a fear of missing out moment at the stadium. I have to be in the stadium to watch this, and maybe our stuff helps drive that as well in telling that story on camera up to the video board. But then it's also the connectivity of, all right, the Nevion stuff, getting the stuff from the venue to the outlet to where it then can be utilized. Is it also like the Hawkeye solutions, anything there? So the ME80s and say, hey, we can get this from point A across the country in one frame of latency, and therefore you can actually do high frame rate remotely. And those are the kind of things we come out with based on what we hear the need is and where you guys are headed. So it's literally just listening and being out in the field and presenting that back to the mothership and say, hey, we need this in a certain timeline, and hopefully we can meet those timelines so that you guys can do your jobs as storytellers to raise that fan experience.
Yeah, and to answer your question, and I will, is that basically I am part of a fairly tried and true technology. You can literally get what I produce with bunny ears on your television. And that may be seen, at least in this room, as archaic. I can tell you that it's still a pretty good business. And I think that there's part for all of us in there. I remember getting into the VR world like back when, it was like 8 years ago when that seemed like a good idea. And one of the fallacies that was painted was VR is great because you can choose your own camera. Let me tell you what a crappy experience is of watching sports. It's choosing your own camera. And the reason is because we spend a lot of money on producers, directors, and talent to tell you that story. And you can have your opinion on our talent, and you can have your opinion on our producers and directors, but we're saddled with the responsibility of making television for that broadcast work for everybody. So I think that I sit with people here that are responsible for another segment, except DesRoches, he works for all of us, as he said, is that, these guys get to actually create those relationships, in some cases one-to-one, which is awesome. I don't, and I may not want to. I may actually just really need to be focused on what works for the, 50 million people who watched on Sunday. And I think that the two trends that I see coming out of television, I'll say these again, and any of you people who have seen me on the stage before have heard this, is that number one, we are tolerant of a lot more things on the screen than we used to be, right? It used to be nice, clean pictures. Now, no. Graphics, put augmented reality, picture in picture. We talked about, put in the ads with the live. Number two, I think that from sports, we are getting a lot more people who want to see the broadcast captured from the inside out versus the outside in. And what that means is POV cameras. That means, steady
access.
Yeah, access. That's what we want. And I think that to a lot of extent that, these are things that you're also doing as well. Do you think, Josemaria, there's ways of sort of measuring, that potentially as a concept with AI in terms of what, audience actually wants to in their broadcasts?
No, absolutely. And I think that when we think about measuring, we need to think about what type of data sources we're talking about. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to predict and understand what keeps people engaged and what is going to keep people coming in every weekend to watch a game, right? So on one side, you have any text information that usually comes pretty good from social media, and you have tons of deep research models that you can use that are impressive at scraping all that information at scale. But then the second part is that vision model component, which is really understanding how your audience is actually engaging with what you are showing in front of them. And one interesting angle of this is, and you were mentioning this, Mike, is creating FOMO. And where we are seeing this in sports especially is live stream clipping, meaning that whenever you have a game that is ongoing, you want more people to go to the stream. And what they're doing now is they are using AI models to clip personalized highlights in real time that are going to get people that are outside, they haven't subscribed for the stream, to be like, oh, wow, I cannot lose this. Like, I don't want to wait until the game is done for me to go to a bar and someone to tell me what happened. I need to be there. And that was impossible before. And now with AI, you can do all of these workflows and accelerate them impressively because all these models are getting better and better. It's impressive how the state of the art has evolved.
And where I would take that, if I may, is what I talked about, finding out what the need is here, and then AI would be the layer on top of that to where here's what the external audience needs from this to sprinkle on that. So to your point, the thing that as a subscriber to just about everything out there, one of the things I really enjoy is I'm a big hockey fan, but I can't always watch the game. I love the AI-generated 5, 10, 20-minute consolidated game highlights. Those are awesome, and those are done like within a half an hour after the game's done. I love that, and that's absolutely AI. So there's so much of this to be added with the sprinklings if it's done, judiciously and in positive fashion. AI, that is.
AI.
I would add real quick, just to end. One interesting thing especially about the younger demographics, and I think I can put myself in there, is that the segmentation is increasingly higher and higher. Before your audience, you could segment it into 5, 6 different clusters, you will be fine. Nowadays, it's interesting how the change of behavior has gone, not only in sports, but in anything that people are interacting with. So for example, like, as you can probably see from my accent, I'm Latin American, right? If there is someone in a sports game that is Latin American, either in basketball, hockey, or NFL, I'm actually a big football fan, I'm definitely going to engage with that, and most likely every Latino in the US is going to engage with that. And that hyper-personalization, based on the different segmentation, that's something that now with AI is possible, and before it was very unfeasible to do.
So we're going to use this last 5 minutes to talk about what's next, the obligatory, give me what's in the crystal ball. So I think, Jason, I'm going to start with you in terms of like, what are you seeing? I mean, you were head of broadcast at the Intuit Dome, and you kind of saw right there the absolute state of the art. You guys are inventing it, bleeding edge, because it was just built, and you happen to have a boss that may or may not care about that kind of thing. But like, what's next? What are you seeing?
Well, I think there's two things. I think, like, from a broadcast side, you could attest to this. The level of technology from the venue has now caught up to where the TV trucks are. There was a time where a truck would want nothing to do with the venue other than give us some power and show us, how to get the transmission out. But I think now these new buildings, you've got the cameras are better, the broadcast facilities are better, and trucks can now utilize and help, as opposed to doing two separate things. They can use each other's cameras much easier. The cameras now are up to a level that are okay or better than some of the broadcast cameras. I know that used to drive me crazy.
I mean, not Fox's, of course, but yes, I understand.
But I would say that, after the amount of money that we gave Mike for cameras at the Intuit Dome to watch a 720 truck come into that building, I just would drive me
that's got to make you cry, yeah.
But I think really, ultimately, that and, when does the event start? The event no longer starts at tip off or kick off. The event starts as the people are getting into the building. And, that's where the experience really begins. And if you want someone to have a terrible experience at any one of these buildings, have them not be able to park their car and not be able to get in the building because they're waiting to get their ticket scanned. And I think that's really one of the things they try to do at the Intuit Dome is leverage the technology. The experience starts as soon as that person steps foot on the property, whether it's 100 yards from the street, they're getting out of, a driverless Waymo or whatever it may be. So engage the fan the moment they get on site. You're going to see a lot of these outdoor plazas being built. I think, kind of to your point, like the game doesn't start for kickoff for you either. You need a strong show.
You need a strong pregame, yeah.
Exactly right. It's the same thing from the venue world.
So isn't that an interesting insight, right, for enterprise video, right? That, it doesn't start at the pitch meet. It doesn't start at the introduction. It starts before then. I mean, what do you think about that, Scott?
I mean, to me, that's the most exciting part of my day is getting people in there and showing them the open. Shout out to our studio and our game experience team, all our dance teams. Like, that's when the flames are going off and the music's pumping and everything is, time code set, so all of your lights, all of your music, ribbon boards, everything is in lock sync. Like, that's what makes the experience. You can't capture that, at home watching on TV. It's something that you have to be there to see for yourself.
Right. Like, we used to say for like NASCAR, it's like, man, it gets so exciting and everything's awesome and the flyover and the fireworks, and then a NASCAR race breaks out. Apologies to my NASCAR friends, but you know what? They're making me do a show in 8 inches of snow, okay? So they get that. Alex, you're going to have the last word here. What do you see in the future, and what do you feel about that whole, pregame philosophy of getting things going, and how can our enterprise friends learn from that?
Yeah, I think Jason nailed it. Like, for us, especially being in a 25, 26-year-old building, we're playing a little bit of catch-up to these other guys on the panel.
Yeah, for sure.
We're trying to create those experiences in every nook and corner of the building that was already built. So we're going back now, very top of mind for this season for us, and we're going to try to create these event spaces where you can still be a part of the game. As soon as you walk in the gate, you're drawn into the ballpark environment. And you could be at the bar getting a drink, but you're still there getting the noise prompts, getting the home run replays. Like, you're still a part of the stadium no matter what corner of the building you're in.
Well, DesRoches gave me a free camera for the last word, so go ahead, DesRoches.
Got it. So the neat thing as a fan, because most of us in this room are fans at heart. We go to games, we watch them on the TV or whatever way we're consuming this stuff because we're fans. But I think between in venue and on the broadcast, everybody's done such a great job in getting that experience to be top level. You got certain things you're going to get. It's a great experience. The AR stuff of the tail of tapes and the quarterback comparisons, that you don't even realize that it's there because you're just so used to seeing it. It's so cool. But as a fan experience, to me, what I'd love to see is what the UFC just did. And I don't think this got enough pub, if you will. But they basically they decided to forego pay-per-views. And instead of having these things where everybody had to basically pay to see the stuff, they put all their eggs into Paramount Global's basket. Paramount basically bought them, and you know what? You want to watch them, all you need is Paramount.
Yeah, they just bought out the pay-per-view is what they did.
I get it, but at the same point, they spent the money for that, and now a fan, all they got to do is just get Paramount. It's simple, right? You want to talk about NASCAR, we want to pile on NASCAR, and how many services do you have, or subscriptions you have to follow all the NASCAR events?
Oh yeah, well, that's a whole
leagues.
other panel for sure.
What I'd like to see, and the leagues hopefully take note, is hey, if you're about this fan experience, simplify it. The NFL does it really nicely. You want to watch the AFC, you're pretty much watching CBS. You want to watch the NFC, you're pretty much watching Fox. Then you got Thursday, your Sunday, your Mondays. There you go. That's manageable.
I want to thank my panel. Great job, guys, and look forward to the rest of the day.
Thanks.
Thanks.